Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory presented by Zayo. I'm Yogi Roth, your host, and as you can tell, the setting is a little different than what you normally see on this show because we are on the road. We punched up to Eugene, Oregon to hang out with the Oregon Ducks, and our guest is their new head coach, Dan Lanning. Now, his story is incredible. You probably heard elements of it already by now. The 13-hour famous drive to just begin his coaching career to the University of Pittsburgh, yes, my alma mater, so we enjoy talking about that. But really what I think you'll love the most is he dives into why he does what he does and why the word connection is so important to him and his program. Enjoy. The It Factor, the most overused and undefinable phrase in sports. If you have it, everyone knows it.
Trent McDuffie applying a rubber.
The qualities that many desire but very few possess.
Dropped in the backfield by Thibodeau.
Well, what really is it? Who has it? And how did they get it?
Britton Covey gives Utah a jolt of momentum.
That's what we're here to discover. We'll take the helmet off the Pac-12's elite performers to learn more about their journey towards success on Saturdays. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome to the It Factor. For me, what I've loved is watching spring and like water guns, kids, like it seems like it's really fun. So I'm kind of curious, like how much fun are you having coming here?
I mean, football's fun. Football's supposed to be fun. We're certainly enjoy it. We know that water guns aren't going to equate to wins, but we do think that football should be fun. We should enjoy the process, and there's a process to winning. But there's an energy and a juice that I think your players match, a passion that they match on the field, and we want that to be positive energy.
So talk about positive energy. You walk in this facility and like, it's amazing for someone who doesn't live here or work here, but I'm curious, you walk in every day, like what is your vibe now that this is home, this is your home office?
This place is, what do they call it, like feng shui? It's got good feng shui. Like, I mean, I love it. I walk in every day and it's like you're walking into a Lamborghini the way this thing was put together. It's super special. Just obviously a great building, but the people in it is what really makes it.
Okay, so I got to show you this. I pulled this up from the archives.
Throwback
photo of you from ASU.
Yeah, baby face right there.
Baby face. You're on like Football Scoop. You're doing this amazing interview about being a young coach. And I remember seeing you back at like Camp T.
Oh yeah.
Way back in the day.
I had some bags under my eyes, I bet.
Totally. Yeah. You hadn't slept for years probably, the whole time.
I sleep.
But when you look at this photo, like I'm kind of curious if you could take a minute, because you're in it. You don't have time to reflect. But
right.
What do you think when you see like this little kid, you know, that now is running one of the biggest brands in all of sports?
I'm just a big believer in anything's possible if you have a vision and a dream and continue to stay focused and grind. And I think a lot of people could be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in. So I realize how blessed and fortunate I am to be here, but I wouldn't trade a part of that journey. And obviously my time there as a GA with sleepless nights was a big part of that journey. And never knew that this would be the final picture, obviously, or where we're at now, but rewarding to know that you can achieve anything if you keep your head down and work.
Yeah, you have this great quote that I found where it was, don't be afraid to chase your dream. There isn't a dream too big. I'm curious, like, what was your house like? Like, who was the person that gave you the idea that, like, you could chase anything?
You know, I have two great parents. You know, both my parents were teachers, and obviously I grew up with a lot of admiration for them. But then after that, I'd say I had a lot of admiration for coaches, and I've had a strong feeling since the beginning of my career that if you do something you're passionate, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's kind of always been my focus. And I love football, so I've done that, and I didn't want to put limitations on myself, and I never wanted to have regrets. So that's kind of how I've operated day in and day out.
That's cool. Would you share that, like when you were coming up, like 7th grade, or whenever you figured out when you wanted to coach?
Yeah, once I realized I wasn't going to play for the Orlando Magic, when I wasn't going to be a basketball player and play with Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal, that's when I knew I wanted to coach. I had a 7th grade PE teacher named Ken Simmons that made it the most enjoyable class I've ever been a part of, but created competitive toughness, had a group of guys that I love being around, and that carried over into high school football, into college ball, and then, you know, becoming an elementary PE teacher and kind of working your way up from GA to quality control to assistant coach, the defensive coordinator. It's just been a long process, but every part of the way I think back to moments of coaches like my middle school PE teacher, Ken Simmons, or Rob Bowers, or guys that I've had along the way. In fact, I student taught with a guy named Greg Jones that I ended up hiring here just because of how much of an influence he had on me as a student, you know, a student teacher.
Dang, I think that's interesting because a lot of people have dreams, right? Like I want to play for the Sixers.
That's
Growing
right.
up, like I was going to play on Prism. If you remember, like that channel, it was like Hersey Hawkins, Johnny Dawkins, Barkley, like Mike Jaminski. I could go the whole roster up and down. And then I remember somebody being like, "Well, you're not going to play in the NBA. You're not tall enough."
Right.
But I was like 10, and it crushed me. And I was like, "Wow, like what gave you the right to like shoot down my dream?"
Right.
And then it all came from within. I was like, I'm gonna go play big time college football. And like you had these little whispers that you might tell yourself at night, but I don't know if any of them really come to fruition if I don't have some support to like breathe oxygen into me. Like, do you see that role now as like you're that guy breathing oxygen?
You know, there's so many people that could have questioned at least my path to this spot right now. And what I was lucky to have at least is the people I loved and cared about didn't. Right. A lot of people question me, but their opinions didn't matter. And the opinions that did, my wife, my parents, you know, even my kids through this journey, they always believed and they were part of it. So that made it something you could reach. It never felt like a dream. You know, it felt like, hey, this is just what it takes, hard work. And having people that never really questioned that you cared about, that mattered.
Yeah, I love that because I think like one of your jobs is to breathe life into these young men's dreams. Like, if so, like, how do you do that now that you're in the position that everybody's kind of looking up to you?
Well, I think it has to be bigger than just the day. You know, each one of our guys kind of focus on their why every day, and that's one thing I want to make sure I point out to our guys. You know, you have to have a why, something you do it for. We really, right when I got here, we spent our time focusing on connection, right? If we want to be an elite team, we have to be tight. It has to be a brotherhood, and that doesn't happen unless you spend time on it. And I think every football coach is going to spend a lot of time on X's and O's, and we hope to spend as much time on brotherhood, you know, on power of unit, on building really what that looks like on and off the field, and that's something we spend a lot of time on.
Connection's a cool word. Like, was there a point, you know, it's been documented, right? Like when you were a young GA, you would write down what your staff could possibly look like, all these things, but like when did connection become pillar number one in the program that you might run one day?
You know, honestly, I think last year, being part of Georgia, as a young coach, I was certainly always infatuated with X's and O's, and I thought that you could beat somebody with what play you drew up or how good your player was. And we had a lot of great players at Georgia, but I think what really separated us down the stretch is when we became connected. When we became a unit, didn't matter what was called, didn't matter who was in, didn't matter who got the credit. We were going to be successful because everybody in that group believed. And for me, that was something that really stood out, certainly different. And it's the most viable piece, I think, to success in college football is the team that can play together. Let's go, Dawson. Do it for the mullet, Dawson. Do it for the mullet. Let's go, Mike. Let's go, Big Mike. What am I getting better at today, Mike? Have a plan to win. Tight, 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 tight. Woo! Woo!
Remember when I was, it's like 15 years ago when I was coaching at SC with Coach Carroll, he would often talk about this term in like the Native American culture called longshoring, where like you would basically like have a campfire and yes, you'd chant for rain or whatever it may be, the crops to grow, but ultimately you were chanting together and that was going to create a unique bond. So much so like I can remember pregame, bro, we would literally throw chairs in the middle of a hotel room and pretend it was like a campfire and guys would be chanting like, war time, take it outside, war. And you're right, like I think the best teams had that thing. So like, have you seen it cultivate? He's only been here a couple of months,
right?
In terms of connection with these guys?
It's coming. I think it's an ongoing process, and it's not one day, it's not 1 week, it's not 1 month. It's going to continue to take time. But I think the first time you'll really see it is when we hit adversity. You know, how do we respond? Because I feel like that's when connection matters the most. When everybody on the outside wants to point fingers and figure out what's wrong, our guys, you know, getting tighter and closer. And when adversity hits, let's see how connected we are.
You said the word why, which everybody has used that word in some frame.
Right.
Curious what it is for you.
You know, forever, I wanted to coach at the highest level. I wanted to coach the best players and win national championships. And that was really my sole focus, was that. That was kind of my driving force. And really, everything really recentered after my wife got diagnosed with cancer. We had 3 boys, and she was in a battle for her life. And for me, it made me realize I need to stop being self-centered. My why has to become other people. And it did. It became my family, you know, my players. And I think what I realized in that when my why was refocused is all of my goals and aspirations I can still attain, but I can get there a different way. I was still able to be part of a national championship team, send players to the NFL, but now I was able to do it with the center focus being my family, my players, and that certainly matters to me.
When she got diagnosed, what was that like? Like, how does that go down? Like, are you at the office? When do you find out?
She had been complaining a little bit about her knee over time and how it bothered her, and we kind of brushed it off. We went to the doctor once, and they said, "Oh, it's probably from kicking a soccer ball when you were in high school," and it was weird. We kind of, forgot about it. She went back because the pain was really bothering her while I was on a coach's retreat, and then she called me and said, "Hey, they want me to go get another look at this, another scan right now. They think I might have cancer." And I just remember, dropping to my knees like, wow, this is way bigger than football. And I was lucky to be around some guys that I loved that really cared about me and our family. Mike Norvell was unreal during that process. We had a lot of support from our coaching family, but yeah, it made you rethink everything. She was in a battle for her life, chemotherapy, had her knee replaced, surgery almost immediately. And it was every day was a journey, but I can't imagine being in a better place with better people at the time. And, God had us in the right spot, and now she's 5 years cancer free.
Dang. I saw this other photo I want to show you that I thought was really powerful that you shared.
Yeah, throwback for sure. She's a trooper, man. She's a warrior. She's been through it all and been on this journey. And she got to less than 100 pounds during her battle with cancer and never blinked, never stopped. And certainly wouldn't be here where I'm at right now without her, that's for sure.
What's this day like? Because from the outside looking in, it says, I'm going to shave my head too.
Yeah. I just didn't want her to know. I wanted her to know she wasn't on that journey alone. It was us. It was a team. It wasn't just her and not me. It was the whole crew. And yeah, she's a champ, man. She's been my champion for a long time. Will continue to be.
Yeah, I love that about you. From your opening press conference to other moments that we saw at Memphis, I saw that when she rang the bell.
Yeah.
That day, her final chemo treatment. It's got to impact how you teach, right? As someone who's the son of two teachers. Can you put that into context at all? Like how her battles impacted you, quote unquote, the battle that coaches often reference?
Yeah. More than anything, I think it just put a lot of perspective to me. Like I said, at that point in my career, I was pretty much infatuated with football, and it refocused, recentered things for me. But seeing her go through that, it made me realize anything's possible, and I'm a big believer in the power of prayer, and that was huge. You start realizing how many people care about you and care about your family. That certainly stuck out. But I think I've carried that through with, it's made me more relatable when people are dealing with some real stuff. Players deal with real problems. And as a coach now, I feel like I can recenter, refocus, and realize what that looks like at times. And there's a lot more that's a lot more important than football.
Yeah, we're around a lot of coaches all the time, and it's a tough job. Like, there's a lot going on. It's so consuming. But I feel like that shift, to your point, allowed you to still do your job, but maybe have a different lens on it. Do you try to share that with the staff too?
I think every one of us know how blessed we are, and we certainly try to remind each other day in and day out. But this game isn't fun if you don't love the players you're coaching and the people you work with. And that's the environment, if anything, that we've tried to create here is, being around people you enjoy being around, and loving that environment.
Yeah. Could she tell a difference in the type of coach you are since she's?
I think so. I'm sure she'd still have her days where she says, "Oh, we're second thought," just because the nature of the job, how tough it is. But I definitely think, she's enjoyed the journey as well, and it's been fun to watch her grow over time. But there's certainly days where she's like, "Okay, you're still at work, get home. There's no excuse anymore. You're the head coach. You get to actually come home when you need to come home." But there's a job to be done, and she understands that too.
How did you guys meet?
Outback Steakhouse. I was a server, and she was a to-go girl. It was right there by the bread oven, man. Blooming onion, the whole 9 yards. So I started writing little notes. Hey, yeah, man. Casanova, meet me by the bathroom. Dropping it. And it just kind of cultivated from there. So she was in college, I was in college, and we just stayed connected through school. And she's been a part of this journey. It's been a lot of fun.
Wow, what was your first date? I hope it wasn't at Outback. Like after.
So I was the server at Outback, and she came in for her birthday, and I served her a group of friends. I don't know if that's the date. After that, I think we just hung out with some friends, But yeah, I don't know if I remember a first date moment other than I was the server for her birthday, and that was one of the things that stick out.
Damn. You been back to that Outback?
It's not there anymore.
Oh, come on.
It's not there anymore. We went back whenever we first got into coaching, but one of the first things we did when we got to Eugene is, hey, you want to go get a steak? Let's go to Outback Steakhouse. Kookaburra, I can tell you the menu. Like I'm that weird guy that sits down, all right, can I get Outback style prime rib, the Kookaburra wings, blue? I should do an advertisement for these guys. I mean,
that's an NIL deal for you.
NIL,
I think, yeah.
Hey, come support the Oregon players. We'll definitely pump the program, that's for sure.
Still to come on the It Factory.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I know the substance of the letter, but I never read it, and Joey was awesome. Joey's been great. I mean, those are the people to me when I think of Oregon football, I think of Joey Harrington. So getting an opportunity to be around him and fellowship was really awesome. Remember, what's easiest for the players not always easiest for us. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways to do it, and none of them are wrong. Next play, next play, next play. Here we go, get loose. Get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose. We bouncing, baby, we bouncing down trail. We bouncing, Stevie. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Good burst here, Steve. Good burst here, Steve. Woo! Over-communicate, over-communicate.
Did you ever think of leaving coaching after she got diagnosed?
I didn't. No, I never thought about leaving coaching. But it probably has a lot to do with the fact that the people I were with were so understanding and able to adjust and make it work for me and my family that it was never a consideration, really.
Yeah, that's cool. How about your kids? Like, how have they been impacted by it? You've had this rocket of success, and your wife's showcasing resiliency at an unrelatable level to most people. How have you seen it maybe rub off on them, or how do you hope that it does one day?
Well, we have 3 really unique kids, and I think anybody that's a parent can relate to, you can raise your 3 kids the same, but how different they can become is so interesting. But, we've had a lot of transition, we've had a lot of moves, and maybe the thing I share the most pride about is how our boys operate when they've moved. I would call them frenemies, right? They're best friends. I'm 12, 10, and 9 right now. And you'll catch them in the same bed at night sometimes still, even though they say they can't stand each other, they're on each other's hip. But I'm just super proud of the kids that they've become and excited to see how they continue to grow. Football is an interest for one of them, not necessarily all of them, and that's certainly okay. But I just want to see them, have a passion for something that they do, and they seem to have done that.
Just talking to people, as you do when you come out to a campus, and they're like, oh man, his kids are always in the facility. Have you created that with a lot of coaches that have young kids on the roster? Yeah,
we want to be up here, man. This place is too cool not to use, and I think our guys, as soon as my kids get here, they're like, Coach, Dad, can we go to the 6th floor? And, yeah, go ahead. And they.
Is that the video games?
That's video game, ping pong, pool tables. But they love it here, and they'll go out to the indoor fields. For me, that's the environment we want to have, And we're trying to obviously have championship players. But we want championship fathers, championship husbands, and how do you do that? You have to model that behavior. They have to see it.
All right, so let's rewind the clock. We've all heard about the 13-hour drive, right? Hopefully you got a little Outback on the way.
No Outback. Some
Outback.
gas station food on the way.
Okay, so I played at Pitt, and that parking lot that you pulled into, it took me like years to be able to even pull into that lot. Like when you pulled in there, I don't know how you got in it.
Well, I didn't. So you remember where the indoor's at?
Oh yeah, there's the Steelers side.
That's right. And then there's the indoor that's across the parking lot, the big indoor. And then on the other side of the parking lot, there's a place to park that you don't have to have a gate.
Yeah, that's the
So
spot.
I parked before you could really get to the facility, and then walked into the facility, kind of like low-key broke in.
Got it.
Yeah, and then just waited at the door till either it popped or something and was able to get in. So I'm sure it's a little bit harder to get in there now.
Totally. Crystal Sala, EJ Borghetti, I'm sure they'd let you back anytime.
Yeah, I love both those guys.
It's interesting. Whenever I talk to anybody from your past, whether it's Todd Graham, guys at Pitt, everybody initially, first thing is, awesome dude. Oh, he's going to kill it at football, but awesome dude. What do you hope people say about you the first time that they meet you?
Just genuine, authentic. One thing that I've tried to do in my coaching career is be me. And I've been around some phenomenal coaches that do it a lot of different ways. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it. But I hope they say, hey, he's stayed true to himself and, relentless. That's the other thing that I hope comes out.
Did you ever not think that opportunity wasn't going to happen when you low-key broke in?
Well, I certainly did. And for me, it's kind of the same thing I talk to our players. Like, I wasn't going to live with the pain or regret of not trying. On the drive there were a million times I thought, hey, there's a great chance I don't get this. I don't get a job. This doesn't lead to an opportunity. But I wasn't going to sit there 40 years later and say, what if I didn't? That was always my thought. That's what fueled me. I didn't want to have the pain of regret of never trying.
I think that this place is so different. And I think NFL teams are known for their quarterbacks. College teams a lot of times are known for their head coach. But this place is like a brand. And I don't think that exists in college football.
No.
What's it like to sit in the chair of this big brand, and how do you deal with like it not overwhelming you at times?
I think you just sit there and you have to be impressed with what Oregon has become over time. And obviously there's so many pieces to the tentacles that have like made that. But in today's day and age of college football, with it ever changing, I can't think of a better position to be successful in the sport. With name, image, likeness, with brand being so important, more important than it's ever been, this is absolutely the place to do it. And it's fun to be a part of that.
I was told the story today that one of your coaches, when they got hired, they called one of the greats, one of the coaches that have been here like 30 years, to say, hey, I need to connect to you because I need to make my room as good as it was when you coached. Why is it so important for your staff to make sure they're connected to the past that's here and so connected? And heck, have them live like within a couple miles of the facility.
Well, we didn't build this. Somebody else, a lot of other people were a part of building this. Now we get an opportunity to build on it. And I think every one of our coaches recognize that. Even our players recognize that. When you walk into this building, when you wear the O, there's a sense of pride that follows that. And we want to make sure that we're, good. We carry that well and understand what that means. And it means a lot. But we want to build on it. And we can only build on it by tapping in on past success.
I love that, man. When you got here, big deal was made when you went and hung with Joey Harrington. I'm sure you read like the letter that all the alums wrote. And they
I actually have it. Yeah.
Okay, even better.
Yeah.
But you get the gist of it.
I
maybe.
do. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I know the substance of the letter, but I never read it. And Joey was awesome. Joey's been great. I mean, those are the people to me when I think of Oregon football. I think of Joey Harrington. So getting an opportunity to be around him and fellowship was really awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big thing. Like a lot of old players coming back. And the fellowship to connect to the roots. When you've gotten on the phone for the first time or talked to some of them for the first time, what's the vibe you're getting from them about what you're building?
Well, it's been extremely positive. I guess I just want former players and alumni to know that this isn't a recruiting pitch for us. It's genuinely we want them to be a part of our program. And I think a lot of times, alums at certain places feel like they're tapped into when they're needed. I want our guys to be a part of this. They're going to be a part of where we're headed and the direction we're moving. And it's not just recruiting that we need them for. It's, our future success. And who can be a better advocate for Oregon football than a former Oregon football player?
Yeah, I love that, man. If one of your old coaches or mentors from back in the day showed up at practice, what would you hope they would say that they observed from your team? Energy, passion, toughness. I hope they see all those things.
Coming up on the It Factory.
I think the biggest thing a lot of coaches make the mistake of is they don't listen, right? And you have 2 years for a reason. And I think most of these players, they need somebody that can listen to them, not necessarily tell them a story. And that's something I try to relate to.
1 + 1 + 1 +, it all adds up, doesn't it? You're like, I don't know if that really matters that much until it what? Matters, right? I don't know if it really matters that much until it what? Matters, right? You know what's great? We can what? We can fix it, man. We can change it. Growth mindset, right? What are we going to be? We're not there yet. What are we going to be? It starts with right now. Let's get a break.
Family on 3, family on me, 1, 2, 3.
Family!
I saw competitiveness when I was at practice. Like some of the drills I'd never seen before, man. They were amazing to watch your team kind of compete. Yeah. Right? There are stakes in everything that you do. Where does that come from, and what are you trying to create? I think Bill Walsh called it a competitive cauldron when he was coaching among the team when they're out there.
I mean, that's football. There's a win and a loss every play, and then the last play has nothing to do with the next play. So we try to recreate that as much as we can within practice, either situations or if you want to have a competitive team, you better be competitive in practice.
There's a connection earlier, and I know when you first got here, sitting down for dinner with guys, like whatever it was, I'm sure you're learning their stories by asking them questions, but how are you sharing some of yours to them?
Just as it naturally comes up. I mean, it doesn't have to be, to me, it's not a sales pitch. Like, again, I think we have to be really genuine. And when it's relatable and you get an opportunity to share, you want to. But I think the biggest thing a lot of coaches make the mistake of is they don't listen, right? And you have 2 years for a reason. And I think most of these players, they need somebody that can listen to them, not necessarily tell them a story. And that's something I try to relate to.
I feel like your parents probably did a hell of a job listening to you as a kid.
Yeah, I had good parents, man. I got great parents.
What are some of the traits that these two teachers have?
Just work ethic is the one that really sticks out to me. They commuted every day to work, and they were up early and back late, and that's something that mattered. And I learned through watching. You know, the way that my parents operated day in and day out, what kind of people they were day in and day out, really spoke to me. They didn't break character. You know, they didn't change, and that consistency in their approach stood out.
Within your coaching philosophy, like, curious what it is, and then the consistency, I got to imagine, and listening are two key pillars of it.
Yeah, I think, you know, if it's important, it has to be really important. And when you say like coaching philosophy, I mean, I think that can be a lot of different things, but ultimately we want to teach discipline through football, but we want to enjoy the process of doing that. And we want to make it fun for our players, but be innovative in our approach. The game is ever changing, and what's successful this year in college football is not going to be successful next year in college football. And we have to be able to adapt and continue to learn. If anything, I hope the trait that we really carry is lifelong learners as a coaching staff and as players, because we're going to continue to change.
We've had a couple Oregon Ducks on this show, and I've always asked them the same question, so I want to pose it to you. First time you met Phil Knight, what was that conversation like?
Super humbling, just impressed with the man. When you see him at first, you're in awe. You know, this is a guy that truly might be one of the most innovative. He's changed college football. He's changed sports, the sports world. But to be that impactful, but that humble at the same time is so unique. He's just a guy. He's just a guy, and he wants you to know that he's just a guy. But we all know he's so much more than a guy. Completely changed sports and the world forever in the way that he's operated.
Yeah, I mean, this place has so many fascinating tentacles to it that are changing how sport are perceived and how it's played. I mean, you've done that. Like, offensive football has changed forever because of what happened.
Absolutely.
For your predecessors. Before we let you go, college football is also changing. Like, I love what you guys are doing, right? Do well in the classroom, take care of you on the back end. Like, how are you? It feels like you're staying half a step ahead of what is constantly moving in this sport.
You know, I think Nike said it. Our businesses change, right? And it's the same thing with college football. You know, it's changed. It's changing. It's going to continue to change, and this game is about to be the haves and the have-nots with the direction it's going. And we want to be one of the haves. We have to continue to adapt and adjust on the fly. You can sit and complain about the rules, or you can adjust and be ahead of the rules. And we're trying to make sure that we operate within the framework of what we're allowed to do and be really aggressive in our approach and continue to change as we do that.
You seem like a really creative guy. Would you describe yourself as that?
I wouldn't. No, I mean, I think I'm a good listener, and I like, if somebody has an idea that's, you know, worth doing, I want to be able to do it. I think most people don't want to get uncomfortable, so they do what they know. And, you know, our job is to be able to do it the best. And if there's a better way to do something, I want to do it that way. So it doesn't mean the idea has to come from me, but I'm certainly willing to listen to it.
I keep having these flashbacks to Coach Carroll. Because to me, he's the best listener I've ever been around. Whether you were the 8-year-old or you were the All-American or the high school recruit. And I remember one night I was walking through the streets of East LA with him, and I was like, hey, these people are looking at you like you're like a god to them. And he goes, no, I'm just trying to listen. I said, yeah, you're not saying much. He goes, yeah, I'm just trying to listen. But the power of that, like, I was watching it in real time. Like, have you seen the power of your listening work in real time with the roster that you have?
Yeah, at times. I don't know if I ever stepped far enough back to be able to look at it quite like that, but, you know, you hope that you can have an impact like Coach Carroll has had on the game of football. That would be awesome.
One of your coaches who coached with him said he reminds me a lot of Pete, how consistent he is. I was like, damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I can only hope to have the success that Pete's had. He's obviously done a great job in this business for a long time.
All right, last two questions. This show's called The It Factory. I think the it factor is the most overused, undefinable phrase in sport, but you can see it, you can tell it. Like, this team, what do you hope its it factor is, and yourself? What do you think your it factor is?
I want to be able to, me personally, maximize the most out of each one of our players. I want to be able to pull whatever that is. I don't know if we'll know that result until we see it on the field, but I want to be able to maximize the result and make each one of our players reach their best, right? That growth mindset piece. And that's the same thing I want our team to do, is to tap into that potential. I don't want to be a team that has a lot of potential. I want to be a team that taps into its potential.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, if you had to finish the sentence, do it. It all comes down to.
It all comes down to the will to win. I feel like that. I mean, it all comes down to the will to win. What are you willing to do that somebody else won't? We're competing every day.
Yeah, my first thought was your wife. Like the will to live, the will to
Yeah,
win.
the will to, right? In general, for sure. There's a lot of ways you can phrase that, but yeah, the will to.
It's awesome, man. Congrats on the gig.
Yeah,
we're
thank you,
excited to
man.
have you in the Pac, and it's one of the leading programs in the country, man.
Let's do it. Let's tear it up.
Let's go, man. No more Camp T.
No more. Hey, that was fun, man. I wouldn't change it. But sleeping on the cot, a little bit
Oh
different.
my God, yeah. I think I was sleeping on a cot too, because there weren't necessarily hotels around
No
there.
hotels, man.
Totally.
No hotels.
All right, thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.